What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Captain Price with Captain Price Reacts. And today we going to be watching Jubilee conservative teens and liberal teens and moderated teens. Now, hopefully I'm saying that last word right. They all versus, I guess, middle ground or whatever it's middle ground. Now it got me tongue tied. You know what I hate? One defect I always hated about myself is dyslexia and having a speech impediment. More so, like, I know big words, might not know how to spell them. I know big words though, the definitions behind them too. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into this video. Oh yeah, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And I'm not an idiot, I'm very smart. A lot of smart people have dyslexia. I dig it.
Humans, welcome to Middle Ground. Keep an eye out for an interactive prompt in the middle of this episode, and thank you for watching.
Our generation is misinformed.
I do feel our generation is heavily misinformed sometimes because of social media.
I ain't even gonna lie to you. I'm gonna say this, and I can't give you this though. Every time they go through a different subject, you know how I do with this. I'm gonna give you my point and opinion. Every generation is misinformed about everything. Not everything, but a lot of things. Definitely in school, they misinform us about a lot of things. School is just a whole big lie to me now. Like, me being a whole adult, I'm not saying don't go to school, because there's a lot of stuff in school that you can learn that is facts. I just feel like it's an institution, and we be institutionalized to learn what they want us to learn. I feel like if you really want to learn something, go to the library. Do not look online. Go to the library, because you can get misinformed online a lot. You know, Google is not always the thing to that daggone fly, man. I'm gonna kill it, but the fly just blowing me. But you could get you have to go on your own research and go paperwork, and don't just go off of Google search, because it's so many websites that's going to misinform you. So yeah, down to a lot of things. So let's go ahead and finish.
A lot of times they just see movements as sort of a trend without looking into them, and I feel that happened so much. They'll just go with it, and I feel like a lot of the times it makes it very easy for us to kind of just be tailed by the government, and I feel that we need to do a lot better job at looking into things and really reading into things and starting to take facts over feelings.
Yeah, because it's 10 times easier to just look at something and accept it as truth than to go and do your research and find counterclaims or something that aligns with that. Because if you're just sitting there like scrolling through TikTok and somebody says that this is happening, I mean, like, who's gonna? It's not really
Educate yourself.
Yeah.
I strongly agree with.
Speaking of the piggyback off what she said off that, I know when it comes down to Jubilee, I do give a lot of information. Crazy enough, right? For a prime example, I was seeing some on TikTok. These dudes, they just bootleg ass conspiracy theorists. They gonna talk about after COVID, you see that nobody's outside in DC and such. No, first of all, a lot of people that's working for the government are still working from home. Second of all, you go out DC, you're not just downtown, it's people outside. I am from the DMV. I am from DC. It's people outside every day. That blew, like, I'm talking about the whole, everybody from DC that's saying it was like, what is you talking about? What are you, like, it was just going on. I was looking at the comments, crying, laughing. But yeah, TikTok, you can't believe everything you hear.
I think the reason why I was hesitant about walking over is, even though I agree that our generation is misinformed, that doesn't mean that older generations aren't also misinformed, especially, in the form of, for like Gen X and the baby boomers or whatever, cable news in particular. You have millions of Americans now who are tuning in every night to see Tucker Carlson spread misinformation. I don't want to pick on him in particular, but he's an example. Social media is just another example of what's been going on for generations and generations of people just with all due respect, being too lazy to do their own research and just believing what other people tell them.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you guys, but I also wanted to add that as a generation, we don't have good examples of politicians and how they disagree and agree anymore. When my parents were younger, they used to watch the politicians in the Senate and the House have like great lively debates and come to a conclusion in the end, and you would see how they were speaking and how they bounced off each other's opinions. And now that we don't have that example anymore, we're forced to get our information from social media, and a lot of the news channels these days are heavily biased. And because of that, I feel like as a generation, we're heavily misinformed. My dad and I spoke to each other a lot about politics. And since I was a liberal at that time and he was a...
Okay, piggyback off what she said. I got to piggyback off that. She is absolutely right. The debates are not the same no more. When it was, what's the guy name? When we was going for president, before Obama came in office, when it was, Clinton, and we had to do they was doing debates with Clinton and George Bush and all they made valid points. Now it's like, I'll be honest, I hope I don't get a strike for this, but I'll be 100% honest. I feel like it was a mockery towards the black community. I'll be honest with you. After that, it's like, I feel like it was like, okay, we can let him in the office. You can let anybody in there. It's like, no. And it's fucked up. But I'm going to say it like it is. That's how I feel. Not being that's what they think. That's what it... No, I'm just saying that's my opinion. I'm not saying nothing else. Not, that's how I feel. Always felt like that. I knew something retarded was going to happen after he got out of office anyway. And look what happened. Every president we had some fucking ass.
Conservative, we would have a lot of debates. I would find myself growing and becoming more moderate just because the things he said and the things I listened to and the things I researched because of points that he made to me, I would find myself transitioning into more of a moderate.
Okay, so I did say the word moderate.
I disagree because in 2022, truth is becoming less and less objective and more subjective. And there will always be objective truth, but humanity will stray further and further from that, especially when a lie can be attached to an emotion. You see, we are thinking less and less critically and more emotionally as a whole. And so when you see something like, for instance, George Floyd, May of 2020, that just strikes your heart. First thing you want to do, go to Instagram and post a black square. Now, what is that doing? I don't quite know. But what it made you feel was like you did something to help that poor fellow who got a terrible thing that happened.
Are these all teenagers? Because they all look young. They all look young as shit. Like, I ain't even gonna lie. He look a little older. She look a little older. She pretty too. But everybody else, they look young. I'm lost right now.
When I was hearing this question, I was thinking, like, is the majority of, like, my generation, aka the people I know, misinformed? And I would definitely say, yeah. I feel like the lack of information is, like, almost as bad as
they all got to be underneath their age at 21.
The wrong information.
Okay, she look a little bit older.
She like you said. I think it is true that social media did change the way we receive information, whether that is misinformation or the truth. But that doesn't make us misinformed because of that. Obviously, like, yes, you have social media, it's so much easier to get information, but I don't think because we have social media that automatically makes you misinformed.
Oh, they got something from each type of household, middle ground. Oh, okay. Oh, these teenagers, oh my gosh. God help me, God forgive me. I ain't think they was all teenagers. Oh my gosh. They're all teenagers. This is going to be good. They're all teenagers. God forgive me. I didn't know she was a teenager. God forgive me. Where my glasses at? Yup, time to put my glasses on. I can see everything clear with my glasses. Oh, then that's the Ray-Bans. Oh my gosh. But yeah. I can see clearly now.
My parents influenced my activities.
Hey, all teenagers, though.
I grew up in a conservative Christian household in Iowa, so I'm very, very well around like conservative politics all the time, and my parents have absolutely influenced like not only my morals but my political beliefs through that manner. And I think a lot of those teachings actually led me to being more progressive and more liberal over time, rather than actually being conservative.
Yeah, for me it's kind of similar. My dad is Christian, but in Vietnam they have this thing where actually like they practice both Buddhism and Christianity. From both religions, both Buddhism and Christianity, it's always taught about like we as a community need to take care of each other, we need to respect each other, and we need to create like the best society we can. My parents not like directly telling me like, oh, you should believe this or you should believe that, but just the way that they have taught morals to me and also their own personal experiences have influenced my own beliefs. In Buddhism, it's basically what can you do that is the best for others. Of course, not everyone agrees with my beliefs, but regardless of that, I still want them to have happiness in life.
I'd say my parents gave me probably one of the most interesting childhoods out there. I was observant, so I watched my community, and when I saw how things had progressed in my community and then sort of just stopped, especially during the housing recession and crash in 2007 and 8, I had a deep question as to why aren't things getting...
I ain't even gonna lie to you. Parents are a big... When you're young, parents are a very, very big thing that has a big influence on everybody. It can go either dislikes or agrees. That's why it's always a lot of confusion being a child and being a parent. Because first of all, you as a child, you really don't know what is right and what is wrong until you get the understanding. Until like 25 years old, I'm sad to say, you don't realize what's right and what's wrong, and you start to have a real opinion about everything. See, that's why when you'd be surprised your parents influence you some way, somehow down the chain. You're going to have some type of something that's similar to your childhood. Like, why does it look like that outside? But I'm sorry, but something to your childhood. Like, for instance, I talk a lot. Daggone, my mother talk a lot. What else? My mother, I most of the person around the most, like basically my mother. I got a lot of her details, meaning talking a lot, a little bit of gossiping. I'm sad to say, that's like one of the traits. I think that's a woman trait, to be honest. You see more of a woman trait. I can't say actually a woman trait, but it's a lot. All right, driving skills, a lot of things. It's just all about what you see and what your mind soaks in. Because your mind, it's all on your mind and what it want to soak in. If you're very focused on that thing, it's going to soak in.
They didn't teach me anything. They let me learn my own way. Because if they had taught me something, I wouldn't have had the thirst to know more. I stepped forward because I believe without them, I could have had some other sort of beliefs, but I felt that what they taught me pushed me down my path.
See? What I just said.
So I became a conservative in 2018, and I became that based off my research. I was actually a liberal before that, just because everyone else around me was a liberal. I would vote for Trump in the upcoming election over Biden or over anyone else that runs against him. He embraces free market economics just like I do. We need less government spending. We need to cut taxes. We need to cut government spending, and Donald Trump would definitely do that.
Are your parents conservative?
They are actually, but politics never came up in my family before Trump became president. So they did not influence me to be a conservative.
But there were 2 years in between, Trump being inaugurated in 2017, and then if it was like late or mid 2018, about a year and a half of Trump being in office, running headlines, a lot of big things happening. Are you sure none of that and their commentary at the dinner table maybe didn't influence?
No, I remember 2016 election. They didn't say a thing about who they wanted.
That's hard. That's hard.
I know. I'm telling you, it just didn't come up. And obviously, this country is way more political now than it was 10 years ago. Right. But I'm telling you, I just became a conservative based off my own research.
Our whole entire family is very much on the left, like Democratic, liberal, but my mom, she was not, and she would claim that she was a Republican, but I don't think she knows a damn thing about what that means. But like, she...
Shots fired.
Right. But...
Just to let y'all know, I am not a politician. I am not into the politics at all. What I am the guy that is, I can't say conservative, I can't say none of them, because I'm like the guy in the middle of all this shit. Like, I want to know what you could do for me, what can you not do for me. I grew up, my mother is a Democrat, but my other aunts and uncles are Republicans. So it's like I grew up and I looked at the debates when the election and stuff came. I feel like me in general as a person, I'm just here. You know, I go with the flow when it comes down to politics. At the end of the day, it's the bigger thing than politics to me. I feel like at the end of the day, do it affect me? Yeah, hell yeah, it's going to affect me. But at the end of the day, me and politics aren't I'm not really into it. I voted one time only, and I will not vote again because I got trick bag. I feel like it ain't nobody I know. It's just about what I look. I do get into. I look at the debates on different stuff. You don't just vote for a president. You vote for Congress. You vote for all that. But yeah, we're gonna finish this right now. I just wanted to put that out there.
There's a lot of tension, whenever we would talk about certain political things that I would bring up. And then my brother, he's very right-leaning. One day I came home and they were going through a journal of mine that was just of my liberal views and Black Lives Matter, stuff like that. And then I realized in that moment, I was like, we aren't on the same page, and I don't think we ever are going to be.
Moderates are the solution.
Pretty straightforward. This country functions best when people from all different walks of life, all different political ideologies are able to come together for a greater cause. I believe that the two parties...
Oh, he young, but he knows some stuff. Moderators are the solution. Hey, what he just said, I bang on it. Moderate, I don't know. Be honest with you, I only know what a liberal is and a conservative is. Moderated, I don't know. But I'm gonna have to look at the definition on that when I'm done with this. But I do feel like this right here. I feel like he what he said, he owning something. I feel like it's all at the end of the day. It's like we all gotta come together at the end of the day. If we don't all come together, we always keep on having friction. I don't care who it is, blacks, whites, whatever, liberals, conservatives, any of all of us got to come together to make one thing happen. You know, just like for a prime example, let's dumb it down a little bit. For a prime example, we all have bad grass, right? I don't know why I put in grass, right? But we gonna sign we all can sign this petition for us to all get new grass in our whole neighborhood. You get what I'm saying? But you got people that it's the majority vote. If it's 100 of us, and they only want 80% of us to sign it, it's like fucking 79% of us only signed it. We fucked. I feel like that's the whole thing. But when it comes down to everything, I feel like it should be a calm, mild debate about everything. It's calm, mild, meaning no violence, no cussing each other out, just a small, calm debate. And then we figure out, and then, you hear me?
System is a trap.
Pros and cons.
I believe that political parties as a concept are antithetical to democracy.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I also just wanted to add
that I think both
parties are a lot more radical than they used to be, and I think moderates are helping bridge that gap in between and kind of showing that, you know, you can agree with both parties, which can help, especially in, you know, Senate and House of Representatives, to come up with better policies and to come up with better laws that help our people instead
She look like she's smart as shit. I know she got like a 4.5, 4.2. You know what I'm saying?
You know, the bickering that we see among our politicians right now.
I just think the problem in America is that we don't have enough political parties. We only have two. That's the problem. It makes us so divided that we have to pick between the left or the right.
Yeah, also I hate this notion that it's always like what's in the middle that's right. I think really we should be looking at whether it's right or not necessarily based upon the fact whether it's right or whether it's left or whether it's in the middle. It should be based upon the arguments.
Okay. You know what I want? I'm going to say this thing. You know what I want the most when it comes down to us electing a president next time around? I want a random, when I mean a random person that did not go to school for this, none of that, a random person to go run for president that knows the society, not the book, and see where that goes. I don't care what color they are. Just see where it goes. Everybody that became president, since I've been alive, they been to school, been coached on this. Why can't we have a president that's straight off the street? Meaning, like, a person that, can we just vote somebody random in? Like, meaning, like somebody, like, that worked a 9 to 5. You get what I'm saying? They talking about some, president is the voice of the people of the country. Okay, and these people just been coached through this their whole life. Why can't we just, even, no offense, even Trump, he a businessman, but it's like, he's considered not a random. He got some type of history in running something. You know what I'm saying? Not a country, but running, you get what I'm saying? Just like, in general, it's just like, can we get a random person on the street to be president? Or try to run for president that knows society for what it is, not for what the government, just the government? I always been
based on the rationalization.
I love your take on that, but nothing can really ever be right, because what's right to one person is not going to be right to the next.
I mean, you can look ideologically at both, and I can say, well, this is this, and this is this, but who's to say which is correct? Which is why the problem of parties, I think, can't really be solved by breaking the binary. It's something that is ingrained into us as humans, to be team members, to be competitive. Competition is what we are, even when it comes to representing ourselves, leading ourselves, and attempting to better ourselves. So having more teams isn't going to fix that.
Well, why not just eliminate the political party just to achieve, the ability of people to cooperate with each other? Because George Washington warned of political partisanship in his farewell address. He wasn't saying we need more parties. He was saying we need no parties, because these political parties force people to believe a certain way just so that they can fit in with their fellow party members.
Well, Thanos snapping away the party system isn't going to get rid of ideological teamsmanship. We are always going to have these issues, and every person, whether they've got a D or an R next to their name, they're going to say, hey, are you pro or anti-abortion? Okay, get into this. Are you pro or anti-gun? Okay, get into this. You might see some of these groups slightly different, but in the scheme of things, we're still going to have these teams. Even if we have it split up into a million different parties like some of these parliaments in other countries do, what do those parties do when they need to get something done? They form blocks, they form coalitions, which is basically just reducing it back to the binary. We are still going to have these binary teams because that is just the way humans work.
So you think politics should embrace the binary system?
Well, but the whole point of what you were saying about how you should make decisions based on individual policy ideas, like are you pro-choice, are you pro-life, if parties are eliminated, people will actually be forced to do research on the politicians who believe in ideas that are closest to theirs.
The kind of extreme, either lefts or even right people, they kind of just slap a label on it. And I feel like moderates do a lot of their own research because they don't necessarily agree with one side. So every problem that comes up, they have to go and do their own research about it to figure out what side they agree with or what opinion they have on it.
So why did you not agree with the prompt?
I do think that sometimes having, maybe different groups provide conversation, and if we were all the same thing, it's not necessarily, we're not going to have any progress.
Neither Trump nor Biden were good presidents.
Facts. They're not.
My family benefited from a lot of President Trump's policies, but basically what I felt was that a president needs to be presidential. And for President Biden, I just think that personally he's too old to be president. I do think there needs to be a cutoff limit when someone can be president.
Yeah, young people are heavily unrepresented within our country. The average age of an American is around 37 years old, whereas people in Congress are generally above the age of 50 on average. So when people kind of point at Biden to be very old, Trump's also extremely old too. So if we want to put some type of age limit on that, I think that they're both way too old to be president, and obviously we need a lot more representation for younger people.
At the end for that one, I'm going to say this, we was scammed in that too. Sorry to say, we was scammed into both of them scammed the shit out of us. Other than that, I don't. Hey, I'm not. I voted for one of them. I ain't gonna say who. And I feel like this. Just at the end of the day, like I really feel like both of them scam artists. And they can't only get in the every president said what they was going to do. They just scammed the shit out their way.
Neither of them seem to have been particularly popular, even within their own parties. Trump to a lesser extent.
Well, Trump was extremely popular amongst his party, whereas Biden has actually lost a lot of that popularity throughout time as people have seen him throughout his presidency. I think there were a lot of things on both the Republican and Democratic side in which these particular figures led to like a larger amount of polarization amongst the public.
I don't like Trump because of a lot of the racist things that he has said. And if you're out making jokes about, oh, I'm going to build a wall, and even if it was serious, that's not something to joke about, and it seems like it's very targeted towards one specific group.
Joe Biden has a much stricter racist history than Donald Trump ever has, and in my opinion, ever will have. During the 2019 presidential cycle, Joe Biden said, if you even think about voting for anybody other than me, you ain't black. And when I learned about the atrocities that the Democrat Party had done, not just to the world and to America, but to my race specifically, it told me something that I could never, in my opinion, be a Democrat, and it would take a lot to even vote for one. And on top of that, back in the 80s, he was responsible for, as he said, wrote the dang bill, the Clinton crime bill, which was responsible for throwing a lot of people that look like us.
I like him. He is smart as shit. He does his research offline. He knows somebody or something. Because everything he's saying...
Weird. I mean, within your statement, you didn't necessarily acknowledge any of the racist history in relation to Trump as well. So if we're only going to put eyes on
after the
Trump
election,
or Biden, I see that not necessarily to be like the most consistent framework for looking at this.
Of course, and I understand why you say that, but she didn't actually provide any examples of a history. She provided a media mismanagement of what he said in 2015/16, talking about immigration. But every time Trump tries to talk about this, they call him a racist and a xenophobe.
I come from a family that is of immigrants. My grandparents don't speak English, and they are from Mexico. And a lot of the time people are bashing Trump for that being a racist thing. He's trying to keep them out, but he's only trying to keep the criminal individuals, such as, drug lords or people sending drugs to our country.
At the same time, though, it's sort of like disingenuous to say that, the immigration policies are just keeping the bad people out, because at the same time, it's almost impossible for most people to emigrate to the United States legally.
Billionaires can solve problems better than the government.
Facts. God damn. Yes. Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Capitalism will always be more superior than the public sector in almost 90% of things in this country. Billionaires obviously they have a lot of money. But what I see is that billionaires are using their money for philanthropy. They don't want to pay taxes. I see that.
Y'all see that little thing in the corner?
If the government takes money, they're not going to do with the money.
From my channel, y'all see this thing right here? From my channel, all my viewers that's viewing this right now and that got to this point, I want y'all to click that link right there. Put your phone up to it like I'm about to do and give your opinion. Give your opinion to them, because I'm surely going to.
A great example would be Amazon.
If they don't watch the video.
It has revolutionized the way we shop.
I think the key word in the prompt is billionaires can,
Most
affect positive change better than the government. I don't think it's a guarantee that they will, because I think there are certain instances of billionaires doing good with their money. But then there are also, I know you mentioned Jeff Bezos, but he also often doesn't use
billionaires or wealthy people. I'm gonna say it just like this: billionaires or wealthy people. These big time families, because it's not that they're billionaires; they are very wealthy, so their money extends to something that we cannot comprehend. And the thing is, they are changeable rich. What I mean by that means they did something that changed the world that their money would never leave. So, and they don't have money. They have inventions. They have the resources. They will most of them probably choose not to use it and want to see or already have their hand into bullshit. Straight like that.
Money for good, because there are many reports of Amazon employees being mistreated, denied breaks, and issues where it's like, come on, you have all that money. Do you need like so much more from like cutting corners like that?
These billionaires can do fantastic things, but I also understand that government regulations, taxes, and various other things occupy their time. I don't believe billionaires should be heavily taxed. I believe the tax cuts we had in 2018 were some of the best things we saw for our economy.
I completely would agree with you that we shouldn't be taxing billionaires at such a high rate. If you tax billionaires, they would respond by increasing the prices of goods and services. I think the reason why everything is so expensive is inflation. But in the past, when inflation was low, there were times where things were very expensive. And that is because of the fact that we have high corporate tax rates in some states.
Well, so I respectfully disagree with the idea that taxing billionaires, or specifically leaving billionaires untaxed, is beneficial to the American economy, because the most like prosperous era for the American economy was the 1950s, the post-war economic miracle. That was when billionaires were being taxed at a rate of 90%. And this isn't socialism or anything. This was under American capitalism, under a Republican president, Dwight Eisenhower.
And this was right after a fantastic, I hate to say fantastic war, but it was a fantastic war for us in which we got so much American pride, and that Republican president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, then utilized that money that he taxed from those billionaires to create a great system, which is the interstate system, which is a fantastic thing that connects our country. But unfortunately, the government isn't really investing money in things like that anymore. It's investing money in weird programs and things that the average American isn't going to benefit from.
That man knows something.
So billionaires do have a lot of money and a lot of influence in order to do good within our economy, but nowhere near the ability of the government. If we're talking about billions of dollars, the government has access to trillions of dollars on a federal scale, like yearly speaking. Yeah, in some circumstances like Mark Cuban, they absolutely can do those things. It doesn't anywhere near compare to the level of access of healthcare that they do have in these other countries.
And it doesn't compare to the damage that will happen to the average American when the government decides to pull trillions of dollars out of nowhere, because we have to remind ourselves the government makes nothing. The government takes from every single citizen standing in this room that pays taxes each and every day, including state governments and federal governments. They start throwing trillions at random things like, I don't know, healthcare for everybody, which can work for a country that's the size of maybe South Carolina, but will not work for the size of our country.
Yeah, I would say that's because our government actually like mismanages the money comparative to other nations. We spend a lot in terms of our per capita on healthcare, like more than other countries, yet they actually have better health outcomes and they cover more people. So I do think there are lots of things that the United States could do better comparative to other countries. We can learn a lot more from those other countries, and yet we don't do that because of this idea of American exceptionalism.
When you were talking about like how it's much easier to like manage like a country that's smaller, that's completely true. Like whatever the national government does doesn't really affect me. And that's why like for me, I'm a very strong participant in my own local government, because you can like actively go there and talk about like what you want things to budget, and it allows you to actually see tangible effects.
The Supreme Court is out of touch.
The Supreme Court is full of older people, which is why I just feel like if we were to bring some newer, fresher justices in there, they would understand what we're seeing more. Because as an older person, yeah, you can do your research, but you won't experience things the way that we're experiencing them at this moment.
Yeah, I agree. And also, the original intention of the Supreme Court was to be a nonpartisan, strictly legal governing body. Anything is contingent now on
I don't know about
how
that
many
one.
people on
That
the
one right
Supreme
there,
Court
I
have
can't really
R's
say.
next to their names and how many people have D's next to their names.
I don't think the Supreme Court makes decisions based off what society wants. They make decisions based off what the law says. The Supreme Court is a non-political branch.
I so disagree with that. The executive branches and legislative branches weren't really necessarily created to be political either. They were created to create laws so that we could live moral and just lives. The Supreme Court and the judicial branch as a whole is something that was created to be nonpartisan, but unfortunately that's not realistic in 2022 anymore. And that's why I don't say they're out of touch, because we're all out of touch. And if everybody's out of touch, then we're all in touch, right?
Well, not necessarily. We just mean all of us are out of touch.
If you look at the foundation of this country, there were political parties within the executive branch and the legislative branch. There were no political parties in the Supreme Court, never.
Yeah, so like in terms of the founding fathers, they were heavily against political parties. I think the process outside of the Supreme Court of how we determine Supreme Court judges is like the messed up process, not necessarily the Supreme Court in of itself.
I just think that we should never politicize the Supreme Court.
Really the best thing we can do in this situation is try to make general public a lot more a part of the process of determining whether or not these justices should be in that place based upon not only their merit, but also like the things they're advocating for. But rather than it being based upon like specifically the political parties, we need a multi-party democracy so that multiple different sides are looked at different times and say, I want to pick a libertarian, or I want to pick a social democrat, or a socialist, or a liberal, right? There are lots of different options that we should have in order to have more of a competitive political marketplace.
But wouldn't it make it more political for the people to choose their judges?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm pretty sure we do vote in the people that pick the Supreme Court justice.
You vote for the president?
We vote for the president, but
And
those are for other
the
topics
senator
in
that
particular,
also
not necessarily like jurisprudential or like law in particular.
I'm hopeful about my future in this country.
Woo! I swear.
Here in the United States, we have the ability and the opportunity to be the best nation in the world and live up to all the ideals that we grew up with and thought that we had. Look at all of us. We're willing to have a conversation, whereas years ago, we might not have sat down. We might have hated each other for having different types of beliefs. So I really think that shows the type of growth potential that the United States has in particular.
I personally think I have a great future in this country, especially being a woman.
This country going to shit. This country going to shit. Sadly to say, this country been built on lies and is going to shit and quick. You know,
because I can sit here and wear what I want, say what I want, and have just as many rights and equal facilities as you do, as in other countries. That's not awarded to all women or even all people. And I feel that our country gives us some of the most privilege in the world.
So for me right now,
the only thing this country gives us now is daggone same-sex marriage. If you are in, that's basically the only thing that's very benefited if you're in that community. Other than that, this country's not giving us nothing. Freedom of speech? Freedom of speech? Did she? I swear she just said freedom of speech. Like, let's touch on that right quick. We do not have no type of freedom of speech in the United States of America. Man, we could say something. We have our own point of opinion about something, and we getting straight bashed. We getting bashed. We getting bashed, canceled, and some more shit. Like, you can't have no type, even if it's a lie or anything, it's just our opinion, we're getting canceled. Straight like that. It's no hands, all hands, then we're getting canceled.
I live a great
I don't care what nobody say, we're getting
I have a
canceled.
cat, I have 2 dogs, and it's great. But I feel like things could always be better, you know? And I think that's what I like about this country, is that we have a government where we can actively participate in, and we can make the changes that we want to see.
I think that I am very scared for my future. I grew up 2 hours away from a Ku Klux Klan headquarters, if that tells you anything about where I grew up. There's probably less than the amount of fingers I have on my hands of people of color in my school. There was a lot of racial heat that I got growing up, and it forced me to grow up a lot faster than I thought that I'd have to. If you look up Harrison, Arkansas, it's known as one of the most racist cities in America, and you can see, if you're on TikTok and you see, we visited the most racist city in America, that's gonna be Harrison, Arkansas. My mother is white, but whenever my mom would drive through Harrison when we were going somewhere, she would put a blanket over my crib while we were in that city just because she felt unsafe for me. And whenever I hosted the Black Lives Matter protest, a lot of members from that Ku Klux Klan organization in Harrison were making groups saying that they were gonna come up and harass us and harm us. And it's a very scary thing because you read about the Ku Klux Klan in history books. It's a very different thing to hear them personally tweeting out to you that they're going to come and that they're going to harm you. As much as our country is growing, I'm also not going to invalidate the fact that there is a lot of issues that are still stemmed very deep in a lot of people's brains that are still being acted out upon and causing me to feel uncomfortable to live in my country.
As a Black woman, I just feel like being anywhere in the world, it's not just America. There will always be somebody who does not like a person of color, and there will always be someone who wants to assault a woman. We are making progress, but in the same way, we can always go backwards. In Detroit, I just was not happy. Being around white kids at school, I think they are taught to believe that Black people are maybe lower than them. And even if it's not taught, it's something ingrained just in society.
As someone who is not, quite as dark as you, but lives kind of a similar lifestyle, I'm trying to say is that I understand, I really do. It's still a thing that can be stronger than ever, especially with the benefit of social media. I think it's something that we need to grow past if we're going to make the world better for our children. But I think we're also right here, which is a very diverse group in and of itself, but I think we're gonna be one of the least racist generations ever, which kind of goes without saying. And I think this will be the century that is just completely eradicated, at least systemically.
Well, I hope you're right. And it obviously is a privilege to live in the United States.
He knows somebody. Ain't no way he that smart.
Country, freedom of thought is under
he know
attack.
too much.
The standard of living has decreased dramatically. People aren't doing better today than they were 10 years ago or 20 years ago.
What do you mean we're doing worse off now? Like, what are you looking at in terms of how did you determine whether or not we're doing worse off?
Well, there's so many things to look at. One of it is how divided we are politically. But at the end of the day, we are the future. And I hope that we don't follow what they're doing. I hope that when our generation goes into Congress, I hope that we're not so politically divided as they are now.
One thing that gives me a lot of hope is just like all of us right now here talking, we're all from different backgrounds, we've all had different stories in our past, but we're all here and we're all having a conversation and we're all listening to each other, we're all getting our ideas out. And in the end of the day, I think this is giving me hope for the future because this is what's gonna change.
Most of my friends have the same political beliefs as I do.
Most of my friends have the same.
I came from a very conservative and Republican city and state in Arkansas, and I grew up around a lot of people who did not have the same beliefs as me at all. And a lot of the people that I would try to keep in my circle who did have different beliefs were blasting me on private stories and stuff like that and making me feel like I was dumb.
It's really hard for me to make friends that are from the liberal side, as immediately they hear or even see my political views or even my religion, they immediately try to shut me down. They send me death threats. They put stuff in my bag saying they're gonna kill me. They've poured paint in my bag and shaken it up. When COVID happened and things were starting to shut down and the incident with George Floyd happened, everybody started looking through everyone's profiles, their family's profiles, especially when these protests were going on. And there was a picture of my dad and my family, all of us together, and he was wearing a Trump shirt. I was getting a lot of death threats, a lot of encouraging me to commit suicide, threatening to do unspeakable things to me and my family, threatening to find my address and hurt them. I could, in fact, say almost all of them were liberals. It makes it really, really hard because the minute that you're different from them, at least in my experience, they shut you down immediately. So I just kind of close myself off and I stay friends with the people that are going to respect me and respect my views.
When I came out publicly as a conservative in 2018, it was probably one of the hardest years I've ever went through. At my school, having my opinions while looking like I did was a non-starter. I received so many obviously negative messages. They called me some terrible things, which I don't even think I can say on here. But all the phrases that you've heard, get thrown at black conservatives simply for having their ideas and make it look like I'm some sort of slave simply for having my opinions, making it seem like I can't think for myself because I am black, not understanding that they're perpetuating the exact same racism that they think they're fighting against by calling me those words.
I'm from Thousand Oaks, California, and I've met people who are like pretty hardcore conservatives. I feel like all of us, when we come and have these discussions,
I did not hear you reacting, Mom.
This country.
Come on, man.
I'm up here reacting. How can I hear her?
Of course, we all have our own ideas of how to achieve that, but in the end, we want a world that everyone can benefit from. And of course, unless you are able to discuss with other people your different opinions with things and talk about the reasons why you believe certain ways, you can't make any progress with our country.
I strongly agree. And so personally, I'm from New Jersey. You can probably figure out I have a predominantly left-leaning friend group, I never really took issue with that because it's, I feel like at the end of the day, you shouldn't be exclusively talking about politics with the people you're friends with. Especially, it's concerning to me that, you know, based on recent studies, a growing plurality of Americans simply refuse to be friends with people who are of different political affiliations from them. That, if anything, says very concerning things about our country, especially because, you know, that this level of political polarization that we're seeing now hasn't been matched in American history since the antebellum era of the Civil War.
Yes.
Man, y'all go ahead, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. I see y'all in the next video.